So greetings, friends and followers. This is Nurses Talking. I am Dale Barcy. And as always, if you like what you see and hear, subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Here on Nurses Talking, we speak to nurses anywhere in the world and at any stage in their nursing journey, from students to retirees and anywhere in between. And today I'm very pleased to welcome Ms. Farah Laurent. Farah is a registered nurse. She's a coach. She's an entrepreneur. She's the founder of the International Nurse Coach. So welcome, Farah.
Thank you. Thank you. Such an honor to be here. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It is my pleasure. So one of the things, the first thing I really want to know from nurses is why they're nurses. So why are you a nurse?
Yeah, that's actually a popular question. And I ask nurses as well. So actually growing up, I always found medicine very intriguing. As a young child, like I said, I was played with my dolls, used up all the Band-Aids and put them all on my dolls. And I always knew I wanted to go into healthcare, but I didn't know what particularly. I thought maybe a medic, something like that, because I like sports and things like that. I thought maybe sports medic, but then I was drawn to nursing because I felt that there was such a wide range of different nurses. And as I grew up and I saw and I was exposed to different nurses, I realized there was a wide range, then that you could do a lot with the nursing profession. And I thought, that's what I really want to do. And I had a real interest in emergency medicine. I used to watch trauma, Life in the ER.
Okay.
So that's what kind of drew me to it. And I said, I think this is what I'm going to do. Yes.
So you said you were exposed to it a lot. So were there other nurses in your family?
No, not in my immediate family, nothing close. There's like some distant, doctors and things like that, but nobody near. It was just from my own experiences or my family members. And I just realized that there's such a wide range for nurses and it's growing continuously.
Exponentially.
Yes, and that's why I love nursing, and I think I made the best choice. And I always encourage people to go into nursing, and I always try to bring the positives of nursing, because I know a lot of times in the media globally, they talk a lot about the nursing shortage, and it seems to be associated with a lot of negativity. But I try to always bring the positive in nursing, because there are a lot of positives.
There are a lot of positives, yes, and that's one of the reasons that I really enjoy doing this, because I get to showcase nurses to nurses. Nurses get to see what nurses are doing. But anyway, once you wanted to do this, you were playing with your dolls and putting Band-Aids on and all of this kind of thing. But once you became a nurse, was it what you thought it was going to be?
Well, I think it's probably not always what people think it is, because, I speak to nursing students all the time, new graduate nurses. You always feel like you're never prepared, and school can never 100% prepare you for what's to come. But that is true in any industry, any profession, any field, right?
Yeah.
But you just have to be prepared. So did I think it was exactly what it was going to be? Probably not. I didn't think that it was going to be as overwhelming.
Yeah.
And how deep you get into it. It's almost like it's difficult to separate it from your life, because when you would come home, it's very difficult to disconnect. So I think that's why a lot of nurses struggle, because naturally nurses want to help. We're very empathetic, so it's tough sometimes. So, but there are different areas that you can move to. So, so the short answer is no. It's not what I expected, but I didn't expect the wide range of opportunities. It actually afforded me to travel, to leave Canada and to come to the US to do travel nursing. And I didn't realize, even early on as a new nurse, how I could grow as a nurse professionally, and even do other things. And I think this is why I love what you're doing, is showing the world what nurses do, because society really does not know what nurses do. You know, and in a lot of countries, it's almost seen as a low-level type position.
Yes,
But
yeah.
it's much more than that. There's critical thinking. There's nurses in surgery. You could be working for United Nations. You could be working for the government.
Anywhere.
Yes.
Anywhere. Anywhere.
Love it.
Yes, I know. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is one of the things that really moved and motivated me. Because if you tell someone you're a nurse, then they already see you in a hospital at the bedside. And I get that, because that's what they've been exposed to. And so we need to really expose people to the much wider, broader thing. And even when they see you at the bedside, even when they see you as a nurse at the bedside, they still have no idea of, when you walk into their room to take care of them, of what you actually bring with you. No idea.
Right. And that's why it's also part of our duty and our job to also educate the public, educate our patients, educate other healthcare professionals, because sometimes some of the other healthcare professionals are not really sure what we do. And I tell nurses this all the time, especially new graduate nurses and nursing students. Physicians have no clue what our scope of practice is. So in order to practice safely, you have to know your scope of practice depending where you work. So if I work in Michigan in the ER and you work in Georgia in med surg or ER, it's going to be completely different. There's nursing practice acts. If I work in Canada, there's certain things we could do there that we can't, but you can't listen to the physician and say, hey, the physician says, do this, right? We're independent practitioners. We need to think and be able to critically think and say, no, we can't do that, right? So this is where nurses get in trouble, especially novice nurses, because they need to know what their scope is.
Yeah, exactly. I'm so glad you articulated that. What is your current specialty?
So it's interesting. It's like a combination of things. So I started out in emergency medicine. So I always say that's near and dear to my heart. And the story with that, I'll deviate quickly to tell you that my origin story. When I was in nursing school, my last semester, my clinical instructor said, Farah, what type of nurse do you want to be? And I said, well, I want to be an emergency nurse. And she said, Farah, you'll never be an emergency nurse, almost like laughed in my face and said, you're too unorganized and you'll never be an ER nurse. And I said, okay, watch me, in my head,
There you go.
So I actually got to go into the ER in my last semester, was lucky enough to me and another student got to go, stay there for 5 weeks, worked real hard, developed connections, and I got hired there as a student before I even graduated. And that was really unheard of before, because there was no residency programs where I was. And before I even took my licensing exam. So I was like, well, I better pass the first time because I don't want to lose this job, right? So that's how I went into the ER. And I did it for 13 years. I worked in Canada for 5 years, developed a good foundation, and decided to leave Canada and go to the US and do travel nursing. So I did that for 13 years. And I always fell into the educator role, preceptor, coach. People would always come to me. So I got my master's in education. But then again, it took me 2 years to get into an education position because of different reasons. Honestly, to be real, favoritism, discrimination, you call it.
The whole bit.
I had my master's, I had all the certifications. I was a certified emergency nurse, certified pediatric emergency nurse, and trauma certified nurse with a master's. And my manager at the time said I didn't have the soft skills to be an ER educator. So I said, okay. So I decided it was time to leave. So I went to another facility down the street. This was in Manhattan, and became an educator for a small ICU and ortho unit. And then I also worked for NYU as an adjunct clinical instructor, because after that experience in Canada, I was told myself, I want to become an educator, and I want to become a clinical instructor to empower nursing students because that I didn't want them to go through what I went through. I did have one good clinical instructor, though, I must say, who was very motivating and stuff. So I wanted to be that. So then I went into education and then went into leadership. I became the director of education. So I went from someone telling me that I couldn't be an educator because I didn't have soft skills to becoming now the director. So bottom line, why do I share this? Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Because I want to empower nurses out there to do what you want to do.
Do it.
Follow your dreams, create your own path, and don't listen to people. If you feel that it's right, follow your purpose and your mission and your why, and you'll always have direction.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I love that. I love that. I love that. What is the biggest thing about nursing that you think you'd like to see change?
I think the biggest thing I'd like to see change is nurses taking back their power and to be more empowered, because, you know, traditionally, you know, the role has changed so much.
Yes.
We've gained so much autonomy over the years. I mean, think about it. Way back in the day, you know, it was like a doctor, right? The traditional like male, right? I mean, we have a lot of female physicians, right? But they would come. So the physician would come and like you would have to get up and give them your seat. Like, what? Like, so breaking all stereotypes and you're laughing because you know it's true. And now it's just like, that's not what it is. But I feel like some nurses are still not stepping into their power. And I think if we were more united and, you know, I'm not saying I'm for striking or not striking, but if we were able to move more together in one unified voice for, you know, issues like staffing issues globally, I think things will get better. So I think not just for staffing, but I just want nurses to speak up more and have more of a voice and step into their power, because you are powerful. Because I'm sorry to say, we are healthcare. Okay, we run healthcare.
Exactly. And I'm so happy you use that word power. Because that is, nurses have no idea the power that we have individually and collectively. And we need to be aware of it. Other healthcare professionals with less education than us and with less experience than us walk all over us. I get annoyed with that. And so I really think, and that's really one of the things why I ask people what they would like to see change and how we can go about changing it, because I really want us to think about the conditions under which we work and who makes the decisions that affect those conditions, because it's not nurses and it should be nurses.
Right.
And so I want us to think about it and move in that direction. And I see it happening. Because more and more nurses are recognizing that the more education you have, the more you expand yourself, the better position you are in to take a hold of your own profession, your own path, and your own autonomy. So
I want to add something else to that. Ask for more. And not only just money, but yes, money is a big one. Ask for more money, ask for more vacation, negotiate, all that type of stuff. Because I feel like because we're in the nursing profession, some people think, you know, you're taking care of people. So you're seen as, you know, you're giving a service, you're helping others, but, you know, you should be compensated for that, you know, as well. And a lot of nurses are afraid to negotiate and they don't negotiate their salary and things like that. And I think that's the state that we're in now. Even nurse practitioners are making less than new graduate nurses because they tell them, well, you're an entry level nurse practitioner. And then they don't try to negotiate.
And we need to do that. I ask nurses how they see nursing. What is the big vision? What would you like to see in 10 years from now? What would you like to see as far as nursing goes? I would like to see, I'm going to tell you what I would like to see. I would like to see a nurse be Surgeon General.
Okay, yeah, and more diverse different positions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think health policy is a big one because a lot of nurses are not sure how to get into health policy. So I think from more like a macro level and public health,
Yeah.
that need to be involved more in policy and legislation, because then things will change from a public health, because we have to have more of a uphill approach than a downstream. Especially some places I feel like need to have more health promotion because there's so many chronic illnesses, but because there's a lack of education and lack of health promotion, people are not stopping chronic diseases because it's not being put in place, especially detection and things like that. Some are a little better than others, but I think more funding needs to go into that. And if nurses can move in more into public health roles, health policy, or even entrepreneurship and do more things, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you talked about chronic health conditions, and that's very true because it's a lack of education. Because there are a lot of people who believe that these chronic conditions are inevitable, and it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we are talking about, particularly, I mean, I know it was happening before the COVID pandemic, but particularly during and after the COVID pandemic, we're hearing a lot of talk about burnout. It has become such a buzzword in our professions. It's something to be. How can we, A, recognize it and B, kind of do something to ameliorate this? What do you think? Because I think a lot of people get to the burnout stage because they don't realize that it's happening.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think it starts with number one in nursing school. I think nursing schools are very focused and probably don't have a lot of time to cover things like self-care, how to advocate, how to communicate, how to go the right career path. So a lot of times they're just so NCLEX focused, like just pass your NCLEX. And they don't really teach nurses how to function as a whole comprehensively, whether they're going in the hospital or public health or community or whatever. They have difficulty functioning because some nurses, especially the ones that have never had previous experience working, it might be their first time entering the professional workforce. So they have difficulty with in the role of a nurse of how, matching theory and practice and everything that they have to do, and also adjusting to how to deal with other healthcare workers, communication, bullying, different things like that. And they don't know how to advocate. They don't know how to delegate things. So it becomes very stressful for them. And they're not asking for time off, things like that, right? Or they may not be satisfied with their salary because maybe they didn't ask for more. Or they're listening to other people telling them to go into med surg because traditionally
that's what
they're told to do. But really, they're not happy in the area that they want to be because they're not pursuing what they really want to do. So as a career coach, that's what I help nurses do. Even new graduate nurses go into the specialty areas that they truly want to go into. So that's, I think, another big reason why nurses are not happy. And then it turns into burnout. And they're not recognizing toxic workplaces and not putting a stop to it and advocating for themselves because they have difficulty doing that. And nurses advocating for each other. So there needs to be more of that as well. And like in Canada, they wouldn't let us work more than 12-hour shifts back to back in the ER. We would have to at least have a break. So I think implementing things like that, because even during COVID or when they're short staff, it's like nurses feel that they're being pressured to pick up more shifts and they feel like, oh, if I don't pick it up, who's going to do it? But that's not your area to worry about. That's administration. They should be hiring more people. And this is where people become burnt out. And it's okay to leave. It's okay to leave a particular area and go somewhere else because that's the beauty of nursing.
Exactly. Have the courage to pivot, have the courage to leave. And as you mentioned, the guilt. We have got to stop administrators. And when I say administrators, I'm including nursing administration and all of that. We've got to stop guilting people into working, because we do it a lot. You know, you have your day off, you've just worked, you're tired, and someone is, and I get it, you're short-staffed, you need someone to cover. But if you call someone and they tell you they cannot come, then they cannot come. Stop guilting them into coming. And, you know, what kind of a job can they do when they do show up?
I think that nurses have difficulty with creating a life of what they want. So my tagline is, I always say, you know, for my business, you know, as a career coach, I say that if you want to be, you know, a badass nurse and live your best life, you got to put yourself first, right?
Yeah.
Putting yourself first and living your best life. A lot of nurses try to fit their life around their career. You should try to get a position that fits your life in your current season of what's happening.
Yes.
You have small children, you want to be remote, whatever it is, you have to start looking at that. But a lot of times, you know, and I even struggle with that myself sometimes, because you have to prioritize, like, and that's what I work with my clients with. Like, what is it right now that is most important to you? Is it money? Is it a commute? You know, is it staying home remotely, being flexible? Can you have it all sometimes? Yeah, great, but not all the time. So you have to prioritize and see
exactly
what you really want.
Exactly. And this is where coaching like you're doing is very essential, because our education does not encompass any of that. It teaches you how to work, but it doesn't teach you how to accommodate yourself in that work, and you know, how to go about setting yourself into a person who's a nurse. You're a person who's a nurse.
Right. And you know, the biggest issue that I find with a lot of nurses that I work with, and I think in general from speaking to nurses, and this is everywhere, and this is whether they have a year of experience or 10 or 20 years of experience. A lot of nurses lack confidence and have difficulty promoting themselves.
Yeah.
So this is why I came up with this slogan that I have in my business, and I call it brag and swag. I say you have to be able to brag about yourself and bring, you know, that swagger, because, you know, you do have the skills, you do have the certifications and knowledge to go after these positions, but some of them are too afraid to even apply. So it's a mindset shift and a perspective change, and really being confident is what I have to work on with a lot of my clients.
Yeah, exactly. So I have a question.
Sure.
Farah, I started to notice that I could pick out nurses in a group without anybody telling me that a person is a nurse. And so I started to wonder exactly what was it about that person that I saw that made me think, "Ah, that person is a nurse." And do we all have it? You know, we all have it. And so I started asking nurses, if you could describe the most essential quality or the most visible quality of a nurse in just one word, what would that word be?
This is a tough one. I would say I would say empathetic. I would say that's what it is.
Yeah. That one comes up quite a bit.
And this is why I think we sometimes the word burnout, we burn out.
Yeah.
Because we're naturally just open to others, open to listening, taking on what they're carrying, and it becomes a lot. So that's why we have to sometimes disconnect or be able to debrief or take care of ourselves, because we can't take it all in. Naturally, that we're just, and people are attracted to us because we're just
you soak it up. It's like a sponge.
we have a vibe. We're like, Hey, let me go tell this person what's going on in my life. I think they'll listen. Just have it. I don't know.
Yeah, we have that vibe. We have that vibe. And you mentioned being able to disconnect and and that is something that's very hard, actually, even when you know, but you have to find a mechanism that works for you. It's not the same for everyone. You have to
No.
find the mechanism that works for you. There is there, as a coach, actually, there is a book I think you should get, and I'm promoting this because, I'm one of the authors, but that's not why.
Hey, promote it. That's
But it's called Letters to a Future Nurse.
okay. Okay.
And it talks about it's a group of 22 nurses from around the world, the US, Canada, the Philippines, New Zealand, Australia, the United Kingdom,
Nice.
who wrote this book. Each of us wrote a chapter, but I digress a little bit. But when you talked about separating, I think that's one of the things I talked about in my chapter, is that you really need to find a mechanism that
Mhm.
works for you, that
Right.
allows you to set, whether it is, sitting in your car for a few minutes before you take your commute home, or whether it is, whatever it is, you've got to find it and intentionally and consistently do it. Otherwise, the whole thing overwhelms you.
Yeah, there's one thing, especially in the ER or these some areas where it could be very traumatic type things, and
Mhm.
I mean anywhere really. So debriefing is big in the moment if you have
Yeah.
time. Debrief with
Hmm.
your team. So that's big, or even just stepping away for a few
Step
minutes. If you
away.
have a really good team that you work with, you can literally say, hey, I'm going to step outside for 5 minutes. Can you just cover my patients or whatever it is? Because
Yeah.
sometimes you literally have to remove yourself physically from the situation to be able to regroup so you can be a better nurse. And if you're listening and you're a new nurse, stop skipping your break because
Yeah.
it'll destroy you and you can't be a good nurse if you just keep skipping. You're not going to be good for your patients.
Yeah.
Listening to music. Actually, I'm doing my doctoral work on stress reduction in nurses, and I created a toolkit. Music is another evidence-based tool that you can use. Research says if you listen to 30 minutes of music a day, a week, just 30 minutes a week, they have seen physiological improvements in stress.
Yeah.
So think about if you even do that every day. I used to do that on every shift. I used to listen to music and remove myself from the break room because we all know it's a session for complaining there. So going out, getting some sun and some air
Yeah. Yeah.
does a lot for people. And journaling
Yeah.
is too. So there's
Yeah.
so many things like you said.
Yeah.
So thank you for I will try to look for that book. Yeah. No,
Thank
I'm gonna be an author myself. Listen, that's my goal this year. I'm gonna be an author.
you.
Putting it out there in the universe. That's
Do
it.
it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Farah, I don't even know how to thank you for this conversation. It's been such a joy. Thank
Oh
you so
yes.
much.
Thank
Is there any gem you'd like to leave us with before you go?
I would say honestly, the thing that I tell nurses and just people in general is just do what you want to do and just do it now. If you've been thinking about something for a really long time and if you want to write a book, if you want to, whatever it is, you want to go somewhere and travel somewhere, just do it now because no one is promised tomorrow. You never know what's going to happen. If you've been thinking about that one person that you want to call, pick up the phone and call them. Just do it now. Take action and stop worrying about what other people are going to think. That's my biggest thing.
Awesome advice. Awesome advice. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Farah.